Hey guys, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this new food guide for Canada. Now, if you're in the States, still interesting to see what's happening because it's kind of amazing what's happened here. But it's not perfect, but made some good strides. So, Canada's food guide here, and the thing is, there's this nice picture, lots of fruit and veggies and grains, and like I said, there's a few issues here, but this area is like what they call protein, and there's like more nuts and beans and lentils and stuff, which is cool. Tofu. But like I said, it's not perfect, but pretty interesting. A lot of times there's other foods that are emphasized in the past, and the dairy and meat and dairy industry have been involved in the creation of the guidelines, but I was just going to go through a little bit of this. The general idea I want to get across is just that they're, in this particular food guide, they're promoting more plant-based foods, and they mention proteins, which people are kind of obsessed with, because even in the photo at the top here, you know, these are real foods, but they've categorized them, this area, as proteins instead of just fruit, veggies type thing, legumes, you know, actual foods. But so if we go through, there's also a lot of science referenced here, so that is interesting. They go through some of the diseases and references, a whole ton of references from World Health Organization. So this is the section on the eating. There's another one on drinking, and there's other aspects to this guide as far as eating, you know, together with your family and stuff like that. But so anyways, vegetables, fruit, whole grains, protein foods, which, you know, I don't really like. I'm not talking about that, but then it says among protein foods, consume plant-based more often. So that's great. And they include legumes, nuts, seeds, tofu, fortified soy beverage. But then they get into fish, shellfish, eggs, poultry, lean meat, etc. But they do say consume plant-based proteins more often. Food that contain mostly unsaturated fat should replace foods that contain mostly saturated fat. So one of the things that happens because of the influence of the meat and dairy industry is when you're talking about animal foods, they'll a lot of times, in a negative way, they'll actually say minimize saturated fat. So they don't want to say reduce your cheese or meat consumption or fish, whatever, right? So it's a bit of a trick, and not everybody notices that, but it's something they do. So, and the other thing is water should be the main beverage of choice. So I think in the States you'll see a separate glass of milk, you know, by the plate as well. So because the dairy has a huge influence, the dairy industry. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'll put a link to the description below, but higher intakes of dietary fiber, which is obviously in plant foods, vegetable and fruit, associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular, nuts, and soy protein. And there's some negative views towards soy. They think it's because it's got phytoestrogen that it's some sort of feminine hormone creating man boobs and breast cancer or something stupid like that. So it's actually a protective food. And then they also talk about the negative aspects of processed meat, hot dogs, sausages, which has been linked to colorectal cancer. A lot of people don't like to hear any of this type of stuff. And then foods that contain mostly saturated fat. And of course, they don't mention directly that this is saturated fat is pretty much mostly in animal food products. Patterns of eating that include animal-based food should emphasize more plant-based food. And then it does mention that animal foods are allowed. And there's some scientific references. And there's a section on drinking, sugary drinks and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but like I said, the main aspect to keep in mind, just the benefit, is that they're promoting more plant foods. And there's a history, and it's different in the US with the food plates and stuff, but you can see here that in terms of this rainbow, there's more grains, fruits, and veggies. Even in 2007, this guide here, I think it was. Yeah. And then this smaller one here is the, there's dairy and stuff like that here. And then there's some meat, but also beans here. So, you know, we have had an emphasis on fruits and veggies. Same thing here, grain products 5 to 12. This is from 1992. Vegetables and fruit 5 to 10. So, but they do include milk and meat, but it's lower in terms of servings. But, you know, I don't think a lot of people follow this guide, to be honest, but they will hear on the news that plant-based, so some people may make changes, but it's overall a good thing. So yeah, anyways, just some good news here in terms of recommending more plants to people, which is always good. I try to share this on my Facebook page, and you know, of course on my Potato Strong, but also on my personal page when there are some recommendations like this. So because it gives more weight and credibility to what I've been saying and some of the doctors have been saying, but usually they're so corrupted by even the nutritionists, registered dietitians, stuff like that. The organizations are sponsored by meat and dairy and diet, you know, and the beverage industry, Coke and Pepsi and stuff like that. So it's hard for them to be completely unbiased as well, but things are improving slowly but surely. So hope you guys like that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. See you guys.